Armenia, seen here bringing apples to the yard instead of the milkshakes that Khalees advised, also stroking a giant cock. This fun, jaunty tune will have the audience opening up the pit for the flute solo. Serbia's entrant, seen here struggling to make her way through Mordor, is delighted to find that Frodo appears to have dropped the ring into a small crevice. Tea has become a fixture of British life, and what has historically made all of those horrific war crimes totally worth it. EastEnders is a soap set in the East End of London who had their own Who Shot JR, with the far more glamorous Who Shot Phil. I was surprised to learn that a gun was used in this attack, as usually when someone shoots in London they put on a little tourniquet first. Oh, my head. Likewise, the British Empire declared war and subjugated millions of people around the world for the express purpose of gaining access to the most rich and expensive spices known to man. Modern-day British people honour this effort by using absolutely none of them in any of their dishes. Oh, looks lovely, Sharon. Proper good scran, that. K-dramas are what you get if you only hired people who had seen kissing but drawn by crayon. It turns out that the Irish Catholic Church was not particularly happy about this year's entrance because of so-called demonic horror imagery. This naturally rubbed them the wrong way, as they are the ones that are usually giving children nightmares. Don't joke about Gaza. Don't joke about Gaza. The Israeli performer seen here bathing in the warm glow of explosions emanating from the Gaza Strip. Oh, shit. Italy's Angelina Mango, which is what sounds like my sister would order from a beach bar, is doing her best impression of what can only be described as the fungal growths from The Last of Us. She's also trying to dry it out on a washing line as it appears her tumble dryer has broken. I'm Not a Robot is a drama about someone who's allergic to people. He is sent a prototype of a robot companion. But, it's not finished yet. Guess we're just going to have to pretend this woman is a robot until it's done, teehee. The most unrealistic thing about this drama is that the man didn't have sex with it within 14 nanoseconds after the Amazon delivery driver made him sign for it. Yeah, lovely. There you go. Oh, sorry, you need to sign this quickly. Oh, Jesus Christ! On the 18th of August, 1894, crime was invented by John B. Crime. Prior to this, committing crimes was simply referred to as being a wrong'un. Well, Lord, get you, little shit, get back here. Latvia makes a very bold artistic statement by deciding to show the harrowing depiction of hell that all bold people are sent to. Ah, the Russians. Having not competed in recent contests due to horrific war crimes, their last and best-known entrance was a group of old women who would go on to be conscripted to the 3rd Battalion Infantry in Ukraine. Well, I am stuffed. What's this? What's a donkey doing dressed like that? What's that man? Oh, God, oh, goodness. There's a wolf. There's a wolf. Get out of the way, idiot. You're going to want to see this, officer. The Netherlands went for an artful approach by attempting to pick the exact source of all of my nightmares. I would make a funny comment about Norway, but I can't see what the fuck is going on. Estonia in 2008 decided to do an art installation instead, depicting the three artists trying to flee from the nearest school zone before their probation officer notices. Moldova in 2011 decided to prove that garden gnomes are not just lazy layabouts, and that they also pursue musical passions outside of sitting still and being pottery. Israel came up with a very catchy song called Time, and I've wrote here, you should probably cut this one, but I won't. In a prophetic piece of foreshadowing, Israel decided to name their song the exact thing the Palestinian people are running out of. Poland follows in the artistic interpretation theme of this year's entrance by making an extremely powerful and thought-provoking interpretive dance of what it is like to be the semen spat on the floor at an orgy. Portugal was rightly furious to learn that their semen dance had been poached by those dastardly Polish. My favourite of all dramas and soaps, however, is the daytime classic Father Brown, about a Catholic priest who solves crimes in his small village in the 1950s. Wait a second, that sounds like Grantchester, which is essentially the same plot but with what people believe is a sexier priest. Obviously, I find this ridiculous, as Father Brown is the height of raw sex appeal. Next we have, oh, you thought I was done with Father Brown? Fool. My favourite episode follows the plot where, get this, Father Brown battles the Illuminati. And no, I won't elaborate any further. Second, and staying in England, we have Shrovetide football, the old style of the beautiful game, one where unnecessary violence is frowned upon but not prohibited, with the only rule that manslaughter and murder is illegal. Get hurt? Well, tough shit. Remember, back then there was no ACL, MCL surgeries or ligament reattachments. You were merely sent to your nearest medicine man, and he would go into his big bag of tricks and pull out various herbs and tinctures and potions. Move past them all, take out a stamp, and put the certified fucked marker on your forehead. There are a number of variations of old-time football, including that of simply holding onto the ball for a set amount of time and claiming victory, or having it reach the neighbouring village mill and tapping the ball 3 times, like so. But the overriding theme that ties them is the act of having a valid excuse to punch that smarmy tanner's son Gavin in the face after he called you a fop noodle in front of your dear Bernadetta. I will never forget this slight Gavin. And much like modern sports, as time has progressed, so has cheese rolling, and with it the emergence of 3 schools of thought. The scuttler. Attempting to slide down on their rear, these contestants are an insult to all things cheese rolling, the lack of commitment to claiming the cheese, and more importantly, bodily injury for my enjoyment, makes the users of this technique objects of my ridicule. The second and most successful school is what I call the Looney Tunes technique, where participants will attempt to run down the hill and then promptly catch airtime and slam into a giant ball. This is a valiant technique and should be praised as such. The third and final technique is the Patrick Star, the act of hurling oneself too fast and too far, engaging ragdoll mode like it's Gary's mod, and letting God sort out the rest. Fortunately for the contestants, the local rugby team at the bottom dispenses cheese-based justice by stopping the cool chads and tackling those pathetic scuttlers. You may be wondering, what grand prize could one earn after attempting and winning such a glorious competition? Riches? Glory? Legions of admirers? No, you simple-minded fool. You win the cheese! Switzerland has made a strong play for the gayest song of Eurovision this year, something I believe they should award every year along with the winner. The artist Nemo makes a strong statement about personal identity. Personally, I think this is great, as once it was his father's time to find Nemo, but now it's time for Nemo to find himself. Ukraine, sadly, has one of the most boring songs of this year's competition. Wait, what's this? It's building. Oh, it's a rap breakdown, you motherfuckers. The worst mistake the British ever made was establishing the 13 colonies that would go on to eventually become the... Sorry, it's difficult to say. The United States of America. Not because we have to listen to Kardashian news entirely against my will, but because of their absolute barbaric treatment of innocent tea during the Boston Tea Harbour incident. The British people were absolutely outraged by this course of events, because we'd worked so hard to farm and obtain this most blessed of ingredient. And by farm and obtain, I really mean murdering the Chinese. The British at the harbour, who didn't immediately die from shock, attempted to heat up the water to make one giant cup of tea in a futile attempt to salvage those wonderful leaves. Still to this day, if you drop a tea bag into cold water in front of a British person, they will collapse in rageful spasms. Albania's entrance, seen here competing for a loose ball, begins the list strong for contention of most leather on screen. Austria's We Will Rave music has told me that the best way to have a crowd of muscular men rub my body is to join Eurovision next year. Belgium's Muskie, which happens to be what the room he's in smells like, shows us a theft in progress of the entirety of Eurovision's supply of baby oil and glitter, leaving none for next year and utterly destroying my interest in applying. Famously, Pocahontas, framed by Disney as a love story reaching beyond the language and cultural divide of a warring people. In reality, she was abducted and stolen away to England at 14, the colonial equivalent of being promised free sweets in the back of a Ford Transit van. The worst part of her internment in England was having to rename from the cool name of Pocahontas to Rebecca, a fate worse than death. Croatia's entry from the band Baby Lasagna, which is also how I prefer to eat humans, shows the most lit party that Croatia has ever seen, with all 5 people dancing. Cyprus gives us Lyre, a fun song with a lovely lady, but I'm still hung up on what appears to be the theft of an entire handful of Ferrero Rochers, something that if I'd been the victim of, would have meant the death of everyone in the room until I found the culprit. There are 3 main outcomes for taking part in cheese rolling, namely victory, shame, and total annihilation. Unfortunately for Slovenia, Albania's stranglehold on the European leather supplies have really started to strike the other competitors hard, so Slovenia just decided to do away with clothes altogether. Also, she didn't want to pay all of the dancers, so they just drowned a few of them instead. Of note, behind the winner is a young Germanic boy, whom I presumed had been struggling for work after the end of the Hitler Youth. Luxembourg in the 1980s delivered a song about penguins. Mercifully, they didn't use the British classic Pingu as inspiration for the performance, as they didn't proceed to piss all over the stage. Austria in 2003 delivered a classic, and by classic, I mean a classic case of Where Did All My PCP Go? Demonstrating that Austria isn't just fancy smoked meats, they decided to put a silly sausage on stage instead. Today we'll explore how Britain became a melting pot of cultures, beliefs and trade, but still came out of it as the most boring people on earth, save for the Germans. Establishing the East India Company in 1599 and commissioning voyages to the New World, she ensured that the British would be right up there in the race to harass minorities worldwide, something fully ingrained into British culture. Soap operas are what you get if you let people with too much time on their hands be entertained by people with not enough. Oh no, what do we do today? Quiet town in northern England? Train derail. Ah, genius. Deriving from the word opera, meaning a performance with multiple acts, and soap being the thing that my family forces upon me, soap operas have been a fixture of entertainment and the prime choice to fill slots in the TV guide. It turns out that if you sail around the world with guns rather than pointy sticks, you can walk around and steal literally anything that isn't nailed down. Marvellous. Make room on the boat, Clarence. We have another one to take home to Our Majesty.
This is a holy icon. You cannot take it.
Any questions? Thank you, fuck you, bye. The irony is the Natural History Museum, situated in London, contains more stolen goods than the Liverpool Council House, but it herself has had over 1,500 artefacts classified as stolen or missing. The skull of my great ancestor, Mahala the Great, stolen from my people, will be returned once more.
Watch out, lad. Don't forget the lasers.
Thank you, my good friend. They almost got me there.
Yeah, they got them in co-ops, no worries.
France has had some incredibly solid entries over the years, but this year, sadly, was not one of them, as even their drummer had died of embarrassment, but was contractually obligated to finish the performance as an angel. Montenegro managed to somehow reach out and acquire the services of Louis Spencer's even gayer cousin.
And I've told you, sit, head roll, head roll, head roll. You've got to rehearse it. Or, what about the crawl? What about the crawl? You know you're doing the crawl and the contract relief, round, down, up, there.
The British at the time claimed that it was their duty to colonise and educate the tribal and lesser peoples of the world to the civilised way of the West, which is wild because at the time the hovel was the height of luxury for the average Brit. This week on Homes Under the Hammer, Timothy Toolteeth and Margaret are looking for downsize from their one-room shack to a more cosy hole in the ground. Scooch performed Flying the Flag. Scooch, if you're wondering, is what Scottish people say in between excuse me and headbutting someone who won't get out of the way. It was a terrible shame to learn that Scooch, after the singing had dried up, had gone back to being a flight crew, this time aboard the ill-fated Malaysian Flight 370. Death diving, or land diving, and no, we're not talking about that bullshit water version that Vikings do. No, I'm talking about the real one, the Pacific version, where you exclusively, and this is the actual terminology, eat shit. Seen as a coming-of-age ceremony and almost doubling as an ending-of-age ceremony of the Vine Snaps, it's a practice originating from the Pentecost island of Vanuatu. In the Guinness Book of World Record, it cites the lowest point of the land dive as the highest G-force in the non-industrialised world, i.e. pre-powered. Neat. Or as the land drivers call it, Nyah. The structure itself may appear like a ramshackle piece of shit and a mess of poles to the layman uneducated sorts, but this masterful piece of engineering went on to inspire the childhood classic Kaplunk, a soap opera aimed to capture the daily life of its inhabitants of their fictional settings. If that sounds boring, then you'd be absolutely correct. So the idea of injecting strangely dramatic moments and revelations would go on to define the medium, as well as that of the drama.
Mr. Jeffries, I cannot stand it. We must flee, run away together, for I am all you need. Forget your family.
What a little harlot. Did you hear that, Agnes? Yes, what a bitch.
Causing me great confusion as I studied the map. Australia are allowed to compete in Eurovision, presumably because none of their artists are allowed to return to their country. This time on Border Force.
Is there a reason why you've got 15 kilograms of black tar heroin lined in your dress, ma'am?
Death diving or land diving, and no, we're not talking about that bullshit water version that Vikings do. No, I'm talking about the real one, the Pacific version, where you exclusively, and this is the actual terminology, eat shit. Seen as a coming-of-age ceremony and almost doubling as an ending-of-age ceremony of the Vine Snaps, it's a practice originating from the Pentecost island of Vanuatu. In the Guinness Book of World Record, it cites the lowest point of the land dive as the highest G-force in the non-industrialised world, i.e. pre-powered, neat, or as the land drivers call it, nyah. The structure itself may appear like a ramshackle piece of shit and a mess of poles to the layman uneducated sorts, but this masterful piece of engineering went on to inspire the childhood classic Kaplunk. What was more important was that everyone had someone they could creep over, and for most that was famed Pamela Anderson. In stark contrast, Coronation Street's main premise was having Northerners be miserable about their lives, but in pubs in each other's homes, a long-standing British tradition. That's not to say that there was no eye candy existing in Coronation Street. Oh, Hilda Ogden, you saucy little minx. Hilda Ogden is the greatest character in all soap operas and drama history, because if you YouTube her, all you can find is her having a go at people.
If you're not off that sideboard by the time I count 3, I'll sling you off!
And a lone survivor washed up on the shores of Hartlepool, England. Dressed as a French soldier, it's believed that he would dance for the sailors' amusement. The following footage has never been seen before. It's been analysed by a clinical psychologist, a criminologist, and ye old bailiff. Oh, what are you doing here, Frenchie? Oh. What? Got nothing to say? Oh. Oh yeah, I bet you're a French spy dressed in that getup. Oh. Okay, I've arrived. Took me ages to get the boat over. You wouldn't believe my last trial. Oh. He refused to answer any questions. I guess I could commend his loyalty. Willing to die for his country. It's sad, really. What are we doing? What have we done? Willing to kill and die for arbitrary lines in the sand, on the edge of a beach that I have no right to call my own. What even is life if we grant it no reprieve? If only I had considered. Oi, Ledge! Another French ship is off the coast. You fucking what? Ireland is actually not going to catch any flack for sending us Jedward, as absolutely no Jedward slander is going to be tolerated on this channel, as I was there when Jedward was performing on stage and broke his leg, but finished the act nevertheless. Most normal people would have reacted like so.
Oh, you're right there, Jedward. No, I broke me fucking leg, you idiot.
I will, however, make fun of Ireland for sending out a turkey to perform one year, though we are yet to have Turkey send out an Ireland to perform, but I won't hold my breath. Austria had one a year with a great performance by a bearded lady. I don't know why my friends were laughing at me for going home with her, as the beard is surprisingly easy to miss after 4 Jaeger bombs. No jokes for Alexander Rybak, just vibes. What Quidditch actually equates to is sticking a wooden rod in between your legs and waddle running like those titans on Attack on Titan, or when you tuck your penis back and pretend you're a drag queen. Another sad display of the sport includes the lack of semi-conscious balls that aim to kill opponents by virtue of Rounder's bat. And yes, I am bitter. When I beat someone with a bat, I was told, that's not what a beater does, and stop, we'll tase you. Ah, more chasers to eat the taste of my bludger. Would I, Wolf, play Quidditch and use it as an easy way to isolate another individual and potentially eat them with no witnesses? You be the judge. Lastly, wife carrying, a sport none of you can play as you're all alone and need someone to love you. As India comes in strong with what I can only assume is a direct attack on any epileptic people in the country, so yes, warning for that. One last thing to note on Baywatch is how wholly unrealistic it is. As a connoisseur of Bondi rescue, it appears to be missing an angry Australian sick of having to tell tourists to stop trying to drown themselves.
Spent 10 minutes explaining not to swim here. And you take him straight into where I told him not to.
Get out of the fucking water, you divvy cunt.
Over time, it was realised that real people actually have jobs, so they were incorporated into the various soap operas and dramas. These included lifeguards, doctors, nurses, police, firefighters, socialites, clergy, singers, students, gang members, prisoners, royalty, vampires, yes, vampires, farmers, lawyers, tycoons, paramedics, being Spanish, radio host, actors, flight attendants, demonic possession, and whatever the fuck Emmerdale is. And most importantly, a drama about one of my cousins. The Estonian video reminds me of Slavic Ali G, partying it up in the nicest house in all of Estonia, featured recently on their own Amaze house draw. Finland, seen here performing in front of the egg that everyone in the 80s sprang from, is performed by Windows 98 man, but I think we'd all rather see Adele. France's entrance is an absolutely belter of a performance, but that doesn't change the fact that he's the largest single cause of wildfires in the world. Germany has one of my favourite of this year's entries, with their artist performing next to one of those lights that people try to climb on and it falls on their heads. Greece's performance is smoking hot, not because of any saucy dancing, but the actual fire hazard playing out behind them. In conclusion, the British Empire was largely a bad idea when it comes to international modern foreign relations. It turns out that oppressing people for hundreds of years makes you about as popular as child molesters or diarrhea.
Oh, jeez. I can't make it. I can't make it.